Rider with you.
Hey YouTube, Awesome Rider here. Welcome to my review for the Power Rangers Dino Fury, Smash Armor Pink Ranger, and Cosmic Armor Green Ranger figures. These were very surprise releases. They basically were found and announced and showed up at my doorstep in the matter of like a week or less. It's different than when we get announcement for things or back in the Bandai days where we kind of knew the waves that were coming out. Things will just kind of surprise us, and that's kind of nice. I like having stuff that we didn't know about. Plus, I think stuff like this gives me some hope for the future that we could get figures, whether it be in Dino Fury or Cosmic Fury or anything after that we think we've missed, but maybe not. So this was kind of a nice surprise of 2 more armored figures, as we didn't get all the armor modes, and pretty much most of the armor modes, or actually all the proper armor modes, were made in the Cycle 2-packs, with the only other ones being like the super duper power-up armors that were in the basic waves, but all the other ones were relegated to Cycle figures. So it's nice to be able to have these. There is a difference in the sense that these are molded on, which I'll talk about more in a minute, which is a little bit of a letdown. Just real quick here at the beginning, I wanted to show off that it is in the new style of packaging that Hasbro has been using, both for this now and for the Lightning Collection, which is this enclosed packaging to sort of, save on like not using plastic. And I partly miss the nostalgic, like seeing the figure in the window thing. I mean, that's not necessarily as important, but I do kind of miss that. But I do like these packages. I like the way it shows off the toy on the front with some art. They're generally pretty neat and eye-catching enclosed packages. I know it creates some inconsistencies with like the Lightning Collection for people that like to display the boxes, but I'm just saying I like the outside of the boxes. But I just wanted to point out how much I also hate the inside. It's like wrapped in tissue paper, and especially with the Lightning Collection, it just comes off as so cheap, and I wish there was a different way to do it. There's just something that really bothers me about it. But I thought I would point that out since, it's kind of neat and interesting that these are the first ones, and I'm going to presume any other figures that come out in this or in Cosmic Fury will be in this same packaging. Real quickly, too, they do both, after an off-screen drop, they do both include keys. They're just variations on the same basic keys we usually get with the little sticker knight on here, which, as I've stated before, I dig the art style of this, but the sticker looks rather cheap, and the helmets are also rather cheap and basic compared to the regular ones. Obviously, you can put these on the Megazords. I will cut away quickly here in a second to showing it in the Morpher, just at the basic sounds that it makes. Nothing too excited. Not going to show it in the Dino Knight Morpher because that really doesn't have a reader. It just activates the same noise depending on what direction you're placing it, as I usually say. I will say, though, I am disappointed that this just included 2 of the same variations. I guess it makes sense since these were kind of, seemingly last minute, and it makes sense to just throw in something you already have. But I think it would have been a lot cooler for these to include at least their version of their respective keys that go with the mecha, because the armors here are representative of the auxiliary mecha, and they have their own individual keys. And I think it would have been cool and made these more unique release to include those. Plus, I don't think we've gotten a version of those, or at least not very many. Alright, now that that's out of the way, here's our first figure. Now, the core base mold, the underneath, is the same general mold we have for Pink, but it is slightly different because, as I said, the armor is part of it. So you actually have the fists that are molded onto there. You cannot take them off. I mean, I suppose if you really wanted to, you could cut her arms off, but that would just be disturbing. But it's molded onto there. You can see that the armor is molded onto there as well. It's not something you can lift over her head. It's one solid piece on there. And mostly, it looks pretty good. Honestly, this is the basic figures. You're not expecting a higher caliber of detail. It gets all the core details you want. I think it looks nice for what it is. I think the green has an almost nice shine to it. I like that they at least have enough of the details of like the eyes and details on the heads of the shoulders, so it doesn't look just blank and boring. And overall it looks fine. I partly like the molded one because it kind of fits more, but I feel like in the show there's a little bit more bulk to it, and this kind of like slenders it down in a way that it doesn't look like that in the show, at least from what I remember. That's not a huge deal, but I thought it was worth noting. The articulation on this is basically all the same, though. You have your nice little hinge joint up here, but you can't fully access it because of the armor and it doesn't go up, but it is there because it's the same core mold. Your single elbow joint here, you obviously don't have as much going on here because you have the bulkier hands. You have a nice ball joint at the leg, single knee joint there. You can swivel the ball joint head up and down and around. You can go blurry when the camera unfocuses, but that's just not part of normal life. You can't swivel here or anything like that, but all the same basic articulation, just a little hindered by being bulkier. It is a little bit disappointing that you don't have the customization options. Just for a quick comparison here, this is like the basic one that I've put the fire armor. The Moza fire armor came with reds, and they don't advertise like, oh, it's swappable, gimmicks or anything like that, but it is easily possible because these are very, malleable, and you can see it's very loose fitting. It maybe doesn't look as good, but I think it keeps that bulk that it has in the show. And I will say here, comparing these two, just the armor on the figure release for like the actual line figure and this one that comes with the bike, you have a kind of a nicer, shinier, more professional look, and this looks a little bit more quote-unquote kitty and dull. I will say that. But I do wish you had the customization options. I think that's a huge missed opportunity. I think it would have been cool if they just released a whole wave of figures that was just like all the armors with all 5 Rangers or 6 Rangers, and then advertise the swappability, because it encourages you to buy more. Like if you want like the Black Ranger with this armor, you're gonna have to buy black and pink or whatever one it came with, or red or something like that. And I think that was a huge missed opportunity of one of the coolest looking things in the show that also leans itself towards a gimmick. I'm happy we got these and we filled out the role of more armors that we missed, but it's a little disappointing you can't mix and match them. Also, something of quick note before I move on to green, this one has a hard time standing for sure because of how heavy her hands are and how heavy everything is, and you have to get her in a very specific like pose in order to get her to stand right. Like at the beginning of the review, I kind of had her leaning back a little bit like that, so that's definitely something to note. Alright, now we got the Green Ranger here with the cosmic armor, which kind of all my same points stand. You got the same articulation, a little bit hindered by the shoulders, not as much in the hands because she has her own normal hands. She does include a sword, just your standard basic sword like you get with all the others, because she doesn't have giant sock and boppers on her hands. And kind of the same thing where I think the armor looks good. You have all the core details you need on it, and the back is a little bit basic, but again, I mean, everyone's free to do their own choices, but I can't imagine being like, oh, I'm going to pose my figures like this. But for the core armor, for a basic figure, I think they do a good job on it. I like how it has a little bit more of a quote-unquote professional look in comparison to the orange one, which I just showed you for the Moza armor. Is that not Moza? No, that's not Moza. Is it? Dimetra. I always confuse it with Moza for some reason. It does make it a little bit more svelte than it is in the show, because I think in the show it kind of has the same bulk for everybody, which again, it's not a huge deal breaker. This is the basic figures. It's not a huge deal, but it's definitely something that I thought I would note. And as mentioned with the other one, just for comparison, this is just a regular figure. You can see it's the same core base mold, obviously with the difference being that the armor is molded onto there. Yeah, overall, I am happy these two exist. I think it was just a really nice surprise. Like, not only to find out these exist kind of here at the tail end of Dino Fury as we head into Cosmic Fury, but like how quickly it happened too. It wasn't like, oh, hey, here's these 2 new figures, look forward to looking for them on the shelf in 4 months. It's like, oh, they're here and they're on Amazon and I can order them and they're right here. For whatever reason, when I ordered them though, they were like, this will arrive tomorrow and this will arrive in January, and then they both arrived. It's like, get it together, Amazon. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is, I like a surprise like this. I think it's nice we got releases for more of the armors. I think we have, unless I'm forgetting, most of the core armors now, which is really nice, and I think that's nice that they did that. It's kind of nice it was for the girl figures too, because the girls rarely get attention in terms of armors and stuff like that. I think if you are a fan of the basic figures and have been collecting them and are completionists about them and about getting representation of the armors from the show, I can recommend checking them out. It's kind of the same general quality of the basic figures. No loose joints problems on mine, nothing feeling overly cheap or anything like that. As I stated a couple times during the review though, I am personally a little bit disappointed that it didn't have the swappable ability. Again, they don't market it as such, but it's easy enough to do, and I think that was a huge missed opportunity in the Dino Fury line to capitalize on the swappability of the armors to create kind of a collect-em-all wave. But that's about it for this one, guys. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps, ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.